This video is going to be all about making a little Hobbit costume for a baby, which I'm so excited about. My friend, her daughter is turning 1 and she's having a Hobbit themed birthday party. So I'm going to make her a little vest and cape. It's going to be so cute. But before we get too far into this, if you like this video, please like and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Let me show you the fabric. All right, I have this red fabric for the vest. It's kind of like a maroon wine red type fabric, and it has a great paisley pattern on it. So that'll be really, really cute. I think it'll add some visual interest to the vest. And for the vest, I also have these gold buttons, which are going to be awesome. They're going to look so good against the red fabric. For the cape, I have a flannel material, and it's going to be a really simple cape. You can see it's just kind of like a warm material. Super fun. Maybe she'll be able to use it IRL, but for this costume, it'll be perfect. And then, of course, we have the elven brooch to serve as the fastener for the cape. So in this video and for this project, I am going to hand stitch the buttonholes. I am committed to that idea. I think this fabric will need it. If you weren't here for my last video, I got all worked up about hand stitching the buttonholes, and then I ended up not even doing it because the fabric, one, didn't require it, and then two, when I tried to do it, it just looked really messy. So I am going to do it this time. I guarantee it, and that's a guarantee. For the cape, I found a really great, simple YouTube video from another mom who made a cape for her son's costume. Who it was a larger cape, it was a bit older, but I actually think that it'll work really well for a 1-year-old. And essentially, it has an elasticated neckline, so it just stretches over their head, and then it's sewn together at the neck. So the brooch is there for decoration, but it's not actually holding the cape together, which I think will be pretty ideal for a 1-year-old baby that's going to be crawling around and everything. So that's my plan. I'll link the buttonhole tutorial I'm following and the cape tutorial that I'm loosely following in the description of this video. But other than that, I think it's just going to be pretty straightforward. So let's just start sewing. Okay, so the size that I have here is size 2, and I'm measuring the center line. Actually, I'm measuring from this shoulder. I'm measuring from the shoulder to the end, the bottom of the vest, and it's 13 inches, and I think what I actually need it to be is slightly less than 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hold up this pattern piece to my 1-year-old. They're similar size, and see how it looks. I remember this piece not really being too long necessarily, but it was quite wide when I had sewn it together. And I think, these are the two pieces put together. So it's the back piece and the front piece. And I mean, 14.5 inches. So that's what, 29 inches in circumference once the pieces are all put together, minus 5/8 seam allowance. Yeah, so I mean, it's quite wide. My baby is sleeping right now, so I can't do it at this exact moment, but I feel like that is just going to be the best course of action to try and get this fit right instead of eyeballing it. So I'm going to do that, and while I wait for him to wake up, I'm going to do the cape. I have 1 yard of fabric, which should be more than enough for this little baby. And in the tutorial that this woman did, she used a kind of fabric that didn't fray. So it was just one layer of fabric, but I think I'm going to do a lining since my fabric does fray, and it'll just be easy to sew it in a big square and turn it right sides out so that the edges are enclosed, or the ends are enclosed, so I don't have to use a serger or anything like that. And let's see, for the length of the cape, like I said, it should be a little bit less than a foot because they're so small. Maybe I'm thinking about her crawling around and I don't want it to be all caught up under her knees. So I think what I'll do is make it about 13 inches. So if I add my seam allowances, I'll do a 1/2 inch seam allowance to be quite generous with myself. And then it'll be, let's see, this is measuring 23 inches wide, 22 and a half, folded in half. Do I like that width? If it's all bunched up with the elastic, yeah, I think that's pretty good. It'll give her some nice straight. And then I'll also make a hood pattern, which is just another square. So this pattern is one rectangle and one square. Well, one rectangle and 2 squares. Yeah. All right, let's cut. So we sewed this cape together. It took me about 30 minutes to do. And you guys, it is so cute. Look at that. So cute. So I just did a raw, well, not a raw, but I just did a zigzag stitch finish over the edge of this hood. If it can, let's see if I can get it to focus. There we go. Over the edge of this hood. So it's pretty basic, nothing really crazy going on there. And then This is 2 layers of fabric that were just sewn together and turned inside out. And then you saw me attach the hood to the edge, and this underneath the pin is actually sewn together. I didn't want the pin to be the only thing holding the cape together because I just felt when you're dealing with a baby, they could like pull on it and stuff. So I didn't want that to come off or have any issues. And so the cape is done. All right. And I use parchment paper to trace all of my patterns out because I don't like messing up my original thingamabob. So our pattern pieces are cut out, which means they're ready to be sewn. And the way that I'm going to sew this vest, it has a lining. I'm just lining it the same way I'm constructing the outside of it. So it will look the same on both sides. That's just the simplest way to do it for me. And essentially, how it will be constructed is this is the back, and these are the front. And basically, it just gets sewn together at the shoulder seams and then the side seams for both the shell and the lining. And then I sew it together on, I'm trying to remember. I sew it together on all of the seams except for the sides, and then that's how I turn it inside out. To line everything up and make sure all the seams are on the inside of the vest, and that will make a lot more sense when I actually do it. But it is going to be a very quick sew. My baby just woke up from his nap, so perfect timing. Now this will be ready to sew for tonight. It is now, let's see, a little past 7:45. The kids are asleep. I worked on my contracts, and it's time to sew. I don't have anything to say. I don't have an introduction. Today was super fun. My kids were hilarious and cute. We had a great day, and now it's time to keep the party going with sewing. And I am going to assemble this vest today and do the buttons tomorrow, and that is my plan. Okay, there's been a change of plans in my brain. I think I'm going to sew one of these backwards so the wrong side is up. So the lining is going to just be red, and then the outside will be the pattern. Cool. Let's do it. Wait, pause. I'm sewing together. Maybe I wasn't supposed to sew the side seams together when I assembled them. I totally wasn't. This is what I get for trying to do it from memory. Okay, I need to pick that. BRB. Okay, I'm back. And the side seams have been unpicked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin this all together, right sides together. I'm going to start at each seam to make sure that they're lined up. And then I'm going to sew everything but the sides. So this bottom portion all the way up and around the neckline, and then the armholes and the bottom edge will all get sewn. And then we're going to use these openings on the sides to turn it right sides out. Okay, everything is sewn together. I do need to trim these seam allowances a little bit to make it less bulky, but then we are going to flip these babies inside out. Yeah. Okay, let's trim. I'm going to open up this side seam and reach all the way up to one side through the little shoulder part to the opposite corner and grab that corner and pull it through the whole vest. Do, 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 do. If I can do it. Come through. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to do the same with this one, except I'm going to pull it through the same side. And you might say, well, Elena, if you only need one opening to pull everything right sides out, why didn't you close up the other side? And to that, I will say, I thought the same thing once upon a vest, and I did that and realized that was the wrong thing to do, because then I had a seam that was not enclosed on the inside of the vest. And so it looked really bad. And the vests I was making at the time were supposed to be reversible, and so it was no longer reversible. So that's the answer to that. Okay, so we have pulled it, and now we're just going to poke out all the corners so that they are nice and crisp. Now we'll poke out this corner over here. Boom. Okay. So now our vest is coming together. So now what we're going to do, and this is the part that's slightly tricky. Let me bring you in here even closer. Okay. On this side seam, what we're going to do is sew these guys together right here, these two layers in the middle, and then we are going to put these together and top stitch. So well, I should be clear. The instructions of this vest say to whip stitch it so that it is also invisible, but that's a little too much for me. So we're going to top stitch it closed, and it'll be fine. It'll look great. Okay, it's the next day, and we have a vest. I finished sewing a little later last night, not super late, but my bedtime, so I didn't feel like filming the little reveal. But here we are. This is what we have so far. I think it turned out so good. It's very clean. So today I am going to do the buttons, which, if you'll remember, I have gold buttons. Let me get them. Okay, these are the buttons. And we'll have to see what we have space for. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit all four on here and have it look normal. So I'm going to see first. I'm going to place them and then see how it looks. There's 4 buttons. It's not that I don't like it. I just feel like it looks a little bit crowded. But if I take one away, this is 3 buttons. I might just have to ask my friend what she prefers. Both are very cute. Okay, let's do that. I'm going to ask her and see what she says. I finished the project, which I'm really excited to share with you. However, since the last time I filmed, quite a few things have happened. Not necessarily for me personally, but in our country, there has been a lot of violence and death. that has taken place, and I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to address it and also share some of my thoughts. I'm a Christian, and my perspective on the world and on those events is from my faith, specifically from the fact that I have hope that evil and sin and death has already been conquered in this world through the work, the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. There are a lot of people in this world who do not have any hope. And that, to me, I don't know how people live without that hope. And so I wanted to share a couple things from the Bible before I show you the finished project that, if you are not a Christian, I hope you hear, and I hope you take it to heart and believe. These passages both come out of the book of John, which, if you are at all curious about Jesus, I highly encourage you to read that book. It explains who Jesus was and what he came to do. And in the first chapter, it starts in verse 14, and it says, "The Word became flesh and took up residence among us." That's talking about Jesus. It's referring to him as the Word of God. He became flesh. He came down in human form and lived on this earth. We observed his glory, the glory as the one and only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. He lived a perfect life while he was here on earth. And from him, this is skipping down to verse 16, "Indeed, we have all received grace after grace from his fullness. The law was given through Moses. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ." The Lord has always given us a way to him. In the Old Testament, Moses was given the 10 Commandments and the law, and the Jewish people were chosen as his people. And he preserved his relationship with humanity through them and through the law, that they could commune with him through following his commandments. And the beauty of Jesus Christ is that everyone is now available to have relationship with God, because Jesus took on the sins of the world and he died for those sins, which is the penalty that we deserve for death. And he rose from the dead and conquered that sin and conquered that punishment through the power of God. And so the next passage I want to share with you is the words of Jesus. And he says, "I am the bread of life," Jesus told them. "No one who comes to me will ever be hungry, and no one who believes in me will ever be thirsty again." I mean, that alone is pretty impactful. You know, in Jesus, we have everything that we need, and he will provide for us for all eternity. And I could go on and on talking about different verses in the Bible, who Jesus was, and what he came to do. But I will end with this. And this is him talking about God's will for why he sent Jesus. "This is the will of him who sent me, that I should lose none of those he has given me, but should raise them up on the last day. For this is the will of my Father, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him may have eternal life, and I will raise him up on the last day." Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. If you are experiencing anxiety, if you are experiencing depression, the world is an evil place, full of sin and destruction, and it is the domain of darkness, and Satan and demonic forces are real, and they operate in this world. Hey, buddy. Yeah. They operate in this world, and if you are experiencing the effects of that, if you do not know who Jesus is, I just want you to know that you can be free from that. He loves you. He has already conquered evil, and he's waiting for you to come back to him. So that's all I have to say about that for now, and I'll show you the finished project. So I think that I already showed you the finished cape. This is what we're looking at. Super cute, super simple. I only had to cut out like 2 pieces of fabric for that, which was excellent. And this is the finished vest. Ah! And I did finally hand stitch the buttonholes, which was a very enjoyable experience, albeit they're not very clean. They're a little scraggly and messy. So, you know, I'll have to clean these up if I do this again, which I'm sure that I will, but I'll show you up close. All right, so this one is the first one that I did. Oh, ooh. This one's the first one I did, and you know, I think that this side is a little less clean than this side, but you know, it's a functional buttonhole, and I think that's pretty good. This is the second one I did, and it's pretty horrific. You know, the left side is okay. And then the last one I did, also a bit gruesome. On the right, pretty messy. On the left, I'm actually quite pleased with how that turned out. You know, I have to clip this little thread here, but overall, you know, you look at it from a little bit further away and it's not so bad. And then of course we have our buttons that we sewed on. So they just, that's what it looks like closed. And yeah, it's pretty cute. I really just eyeballed the buttons, so I feel like they look pretty even, and I'm pleased with that. Overall, this project, if I machine did the buttonholes, it would have taken me less time, but to just construct the vest and cape probably only took me about a total of an hour. So it was a really short, easy project. And then, of course, you could do the buttons and buttonholes more quickly. Although to the buttonholes, it probably took me, I don't know, 2 hours to do all 3 of them. Keep in mind, it was my first time hand sewing buttonholes, and really actually, it was the first time I've done buttonholes at all. So I'm sure that extended the time a little bit, but it was a very easy and enjoyable process. I just plopped down on my couch and watched TV. I could kind of mindlessly do that. So overall, a really short project, really easy. Both of these pieces, the cape and the vest, only took half a yard of fabric each. So it's quite economical in terms of materials. And I really enjoyed it. I think that my friend's baby is going to look so cute, and I can't wait to see her in it. Thank you again for being here, and I hope that you liked this video. Please like and subscribe if you did, or leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts, and I will see you next time.